Dead Art Studios Wikiart deep dive today. We're doing the second part of L.S. Lowry, Laurence Stephen Lowry, the English painter from sort of Salford, Manchester area. In the first video of his that we did, we went on Wikiart and we looked at the first 60 of his paintings that are on there. There's 136. Let's see if we can get through the rest of them today. Right, let's go full screen. We finished off on this house last time, and it's kind of a derelict house in the middle of a sort of pool of water, and there's some people in the background. And I was talking about how it had quite a stylistic and almost cartoon-like style, and that sort of appears in quite a lot of Lowry's work, more in some cases than others. If we look at this one, now, looking at the screen here, I can see that it's quite an impasto piece, so there's a lot of texture in there, and I think that's something we sort of miss about Lowry's work. I think if you see the paintings in real life, you realise that there is a lot of texture in his art, and the paint is laid on quite thick. We've got these kind of tall, thin characters again. The face here is very sort of triangular and thin, and I think this could be some kind of post-war type things, some kind of war scene, bombing maybe in World War II, something like that. Blitzed site, yes, 1942. So he was going around in the war and looking at these things, and not only did he like desolate and things that had been abandoned, but also he was interested in the destroyed as well. Another house, now is that the same house? Or is it a different house? It looks kind of different, and a lot of these scenes that he did were imagined. They weren't necessarily real. And note the sort of interesting perspective on this as well. He's set up quite high, almost like you're sat in a theatre looking at it as a stage. I mean, was he on a hill, or did he just imagine that perspective? Less colour in this, but it's still using his blacks, his reds and his yellows, all sort of standard Lowry really. And I was thinking about this. I've been putting off coming back to Lowry because the winter's got a little bit, well, it's on its way here in the UK. It's quite bright today, but looking at a load of greyish paintings when you're feeling a bit grey is not necessarily what you want to be doing. And also I do think quite a lot of his work's very similar, and he was very rigid, I think, in that sense. So let's see as we go on later in life how rigid he remains. And he did stop painting even when he was perfectly capable of painting, because he claimed he'd done everything he wanted to. So this scene I do like. It's up high again. We've got a little row here. We've got the city that he's looking at, and the perspective again cutting through this river that comes down. The bank's very undefined, almost like there's floods and things like that. And I suppose now rivers, we control them a lot more. Maybe back in those days they did a little bit more what they wanted and came lapping up to the shore. What's this one called? Britain at Play, and this one's in 1943. This is one of his famous ones. So there's some big fair or exhibit or exhibition that's on, and there's thousands of people. And it's got the sort of Where's Wally or Where's Waldo vibes. It's got that black church that he's often painting in the background there, and one of those, is that one of those gas storage things? Did they even have gas back then? I can't quite remember. Well, I don't know, I wasn't alive, but I think that was a little bit later anyway. These, what are these? Are like big swings or something, and people going in through this very central point, and again the perspective, which is all part of Lowry's work, but then is yet again also very high, like he is sat at the back of a stage. And he did used to go to the ballet a lot, things like that, so maybe that is part of his work. Now this I do like. The reds are beautiful, the scarlet colour here, and the greys and the sort of darker tones and the little highlights of the hair. It is stylized, but I wouldn't call this one like cartoonish per se. It's just highly Lowry, isn't it? Firewatcher, 1943. So this is in the war period. Very nice. This is a nice sort of family scene. Two kids playing around in the corner. I mean, we've seen it before, haven't we? Discord one. Interesting. I've got this lady here with the red lips. So he's sticking to his palette again, even though this time the topic is a sort of tighter scene with people indoors. And again, 1 point perspective, very well done. I think that side of his work is ignored, and obviously a lot of people focus on his people. I tend to notice the structural sides more for some reason. I struggle with people to some degree. The perspective again here is excellent. This is really nice. And you can see a bit more of the impasto on this as well in the snow at the front, going down into this hidden vanishing point down here, and just a few people in the distance. It's very nice. Just maybe a little bit of fog covering the steeple of the church. But again, we're in the same territory, aren't we? Another busy scene. All the chimneys in the background, the reds, the yellows, and the blacks. And sort of, I'm going to call this colour black. It's a grey brown, I think. And the dancing folk down there, and the dogs, and it's all as we expect for a Lowry scene again. Perspective again, pushing up into that corner, and like I say, we see a lot of that. Now this is something that he did do that was a bit different. He did do landscapes. He stuck within a style for those as well. This one's very sort of dark green, and then the white of the water, the white of the horizon, and then these bumps up here. It looks like Lake District or Brecon Beacons, or something like that. We're at the beach. He's even managed to use his palette for the sand colour here as well. And we've got the houses in the background. I don't know where this is at. Does it say where it is? July, the seaside. No, we are left to figure that out for ourselves. Folk at the beach. See, it was busy even in 1942 at the beach. These two folks just lying down in the full clothing. I think beachwear was a little bit more full on back in those days. And we're back here at work now. We've got sort of trams or buses here. Blimps up there. What did the blimps do? Were they for advertising back in those days, or did they have like a function? Because now you just see them floating around advertising things if you see them at all. I wonder if they would. What did they do? I really don't know. More of the same. The perspective's not obvious on this one. It just sort of move off to the right down there. It's quite subtle and quite clever how it's done, but you can definitely tell that this moves away as we get over to this corner. So that is nicely done. A fellow standing straight on, Lancashire cotton worker. Oh wow, very nice. And you see, this is where maybe it gets called naive or crude, because of like his hands and the way the boots are done, and obviously the shape of the person's a little bit stylized, cartoony. But look at the subtlety of this gate, these fencing rails, and the people behind, and the way it all blends in, and then up and there, and this little darker bit on the chimney, bouncing with a hat here, creating this little off piece. It's very subtly done down here as well. And you see, he did have these abilities. We can see the texture of the paint as well. It's laid on thick. And the thing is, you come here and you look at this, and you look at the hands and everything, and you're like, But then when you look at this here, it's almost impressionistic, isn't it? And there's more to his work than you might first think. There we go, big chimney all the way up to the top of the painting, and we've got some barges here, narrow boats, and they're going into a lock, and we've got a bridge. And again, the perspective, very nice scene, well balanced, good composition. A massive scene going on for miles, and in places like Manchester and Derbyshire you can be up on a hill and see for miles like this. And a pool of water down here, and perhaps one of his very sort of famous matchstick men type paintings, the kind that my mum had on the wall in our house when she just got married to my father and went to Woolworths when she was probably about 18 or 19 years old, and brought some prints of Lowry and put them on the wall, and So therefore Lowry really must be the first paintings I ever saw, I think. Now this is maybe another Blitz type scene. St Augustine's Church, Manchester. This is really quite nice. I love it's got a different stroke work, I think, almost to it, this one. A bit broader strokes, and look at the light coming through at the back, and it's just the front blown up. Is this the same large black church he was painting in all the other paintings? I'm not sad if it is. A couple of people around in the sides, a 2-point perspective here, going off that way and that way, almost exactly where you draw your little crosses on your horizons, and then bringing either side of this building up to the forefront along this road here. It is pretty textbook sort of architectural style drawing and 2-point perspective style drawing, and not something is necessarily spotted for every time. Here, this is more brightly coloured. The yellow, it's almost like reminds me of my visit to Iceland with the yellows and the reds in there, and there's some blue in there as well. And I really need to make the effort to go and see his paintings in real life, because I think this is where you're going to get the true feeling for them, with the way the paint is laid on, and maybe there is more vibrancy than you get than on a screen. Now this is beautiful. You can see here more of his impasto work again, heading off again, perspective, same colours again. Everything is very formulaic, isn't he, in a way? And it's interesting to think, how much did he experiment within his own style, or how much was he just doing something that he loved and was comfortable with? There's a difference between that and that. So maybe we shouldn't be so quick to put him in style, but you just so know it's him, don't you, when you see the work. That more perspective here, more buildings, more people. Same again from a lower scene, and you see he was intrigued by people. And for me, when I look at this work, I'm just not. I like the colours, I like the way it's organised. I'm just not interested. These some sparklers or something. A little balloon or a lollipop on a stick, probably a balloon there. Another fair scene from a very far distance. The way the people are done there, for me, I prefer that. The way the mass of the people's there, and just the little individual strokes. And actually, looking at it, he has put quite a lot of work in there. You can see the legs and the body and the head. More evidence that he could do the full range of painting outside of his style if he chose to. Here we are, more perspective going down off into this corner, central horizon point, really, isn't it? A steam train on a rail, LNER. Unfortunately, can't. Engineering railway, Liverpool North engineer. I really am guessing there. Red flag, stay back. Dogs, know your place. This person saying, dogs, don't go running under that steam train. And it's coming through. Back to go and fetch something. Here we go, we've got some docks. A massive boat there. And cranes and things like that. Industrial England does not exist anymore. 2-point perspective here again, either side of the building, disappearing off that way, but more so that way. He seems to favour one. He gives the hint of something going that way, and then always pushes off on one long direction that way, and this sort of clock tower in the middle. Interesting. Bends in the road as well, to use perspective, sitting right on the edge of a bend, and then you get the feeling that you're going off down that way, round, up and off. Chimneys, the same colours, the same chimneys, just the same, isn't it, in many ways. Boat, A couple of people in the foreground. For me, that's got less going on than all the other works we've seen so far. Here we go. This is a much whiter scene with that impasto paint laid on in white, and then the people there. All the strokes are very vertical. I'm sure seeing that in the flesh would be interesting. All the very vertical little paintbrush strokes all pushing up towards this sort of one-point perspective heading off there. A mill, industrial, yet again, folk off to work. And in many ways, I'm saying everything's the same. This is how it was, isn't it? It was the same for all these folks. Every day you came out, you went to work, you loitered around on the streets, and, you know, it was just a daily grind. A lot going on in this. Simple work again with the whites on the bottom. Do like that. The fence just open, just these people are going to go through there, aren't they? The way that he lets you know that that's where they're going. It's nice. It's that black building creeping in here as well. Didn't have to be there, that did it? He could have cut that out of the composition and had just sky there, but for some reason he's put that in. Again, funneling you that way, I think. Oh yeah, this is one of his famous ones, the cripples. And he was criticised by his friend or someone he knew, saying, well, there's not that many cripples out at any one time. But I don't think that's necessarily the point. Also, if you go and spend any time at any given bus stop, you'll sort of definitely notice that people all have their individual infirmities and characteristics that make them who they are. And it's maybe not quite this obvious, but you know, the idea that everybody is well and full of fitness is definitely not the case even today. We've got the two dogs again in here, and we've got these folks all wandering around. This is an imagined scene. It wasn't a real scene. Apparently this guy was known to Lowry. So there are real people within the imagined scene. See, this one looks colourful, doesn't it? Look at these colourful hills here. This is nice. Something a bit different there, bringing in the colour into the landscape itself, and that's quite interesting, isn't it? I think that helps that piece. Big boating lake. Wow. So if he's into landscape, he's into painting as little as possible, whereas on these, he's painting as much as possible, isn't he? Well, here, he's painting as little as possible. This dark area here, and then a dark bit creeping on the edge of the composition as well. Something he seems to do a lot. And then fading off into the hills there. That's very dark. Now, whether that's just the way the photograph is taken, I don't know. So another busy scene with the bridge there in the background. And then here, a quiet scene again with three pools of water, or many pools of water. Is this real? Where would this be? I don't know. Or has he imagined a landscape there? Interesting. Folk out and about, doing their things with big heads and the same dogs, and the lightning struck broken trees. He had he just saw life in a certain way, didn't he? And out here, nothing. With the people, there's something. And when he's out there, there's nothing. I think I'd rather hang this than the other one. Another one of his landscapes. And he travelled around quite a lot with the girl that he left his estate to, who he had a sort of grandfather-like relationship with, and he left all his paintings to her. and he would travel around and take her, and she'd like learn painting and things like that as well. Okay, perspective point down there, heading off down there. That one's very loose. Inside some kind of shopping area. A waiting room. This looks like reminds me of a train station. Let's see if it says what it is. Oh, outpatients hall. Equally upsetting place to be. Oh, I should have spotted it really, but then, you know, when you saw his cripples painting, I mean, I should have spotted the doctor in the white coat. This just shows you how my brain doesn't tune into people. I immediately started looking at this and going, no, that looks like a ticket hall, or somewhere where you buy a ticket. And these look like the toilets on the way to the platform. You see, you know, other people might go, oh, look, there's a man in a white coat. This is a hospital. 1 point perspective straight through there. Use these cypress trees to show the way to the vanishing point in the centre. Here we go. His imagined muse, maybe actually of a girl that he didn't know at art college, or maybe a sort of mixture of women that he sort of knew or maybe had affection for. Look at the neck here, it's interesting. Tied back. I wish he'd done more of this. Well, he did do more of this stuff. A lot of it hasn't been seen. But it's very interestingly drawn. And for me, if I am going to look at people, I think I'd rather look at a portrait than a group of people. Even with the Renaissance paintings, with the religious scenes and stuff like that, and the sort of classical fables and everything, I've always struggled with them. House. Looks like a weird spooky shadow there. Now, more colour in the landscape itself, and I really do like that. I think it brings his paintings to life more. The same colours, obviously. I mean, he must have been walking into the local artist shop to get his paints, and they must have just took a bag out from behind and gave him exactly the same thing every time. It's two folk. Couple crossing the road. Kind of charming. A family. Are they going to a funeral? A funeral party, yeah. So again, the same red lips on the females, except for her. And, you know, there's slumped shoulders. And the black shoes with a little shine on them. Wow, this one's really quite detailed. Oh, it's a parade outside Buckingham Palace, I believe. The procession passing the Queen Victoria something, which I'm not going to look at because I don't want to accidentally exit the website. A lot of people in here, and he really has put some time into doing that. See these, a lot less colour in the landscape on that one. Little archway pushing through, more perspective, more chimneys, more people. Here we go, the girl again, 1954. Large eye, chin comes forward quite a lot, and a slight forward lean, and this swept back hair here, and the nose, the large lips with the large eyes. That looks like the same painting we saw before, but in more detail. Interesting. Some kind of city centre, square, plaza, Piccadilly Gardens. There we go. See, so he did travel around, headed down to London. Used to hang out with David Attenborough and stuff, apparently. Colourful, again, a bit brighter, a bit chirpier. Seen him so later in his career here. This one's kind of in the middle, brighter greens. I mean, a lot of it could be how the photos are taken, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt. Now, this guy, a young man. So why does he do the big mouths with the big lips? That's interesting. He's got the big eyes and the nose, big ears, but the small shoulders. Interesting. Verticals for the background look very nicely done, that. And the way the shadows come onto the bottom of the neck using the same colours. He might have gone off palette a bit there and mixed some different colours. Yeah, this bit, see, everything matches, doesn't it? It's quite clever. Just in a window, walking down the road, little bunch of flowers. Some kind of barge. The floating bridge, Southampton. Oh, it must take you across some kind of estuary or river. My geography of Southampton is lacking and poor. Here she is again. And then these seem to have come slightly later in life as well. Is he sort of missing the fact that he never found the love of his life, and maybe reminiscing back. There we go. A man smoking a fag on a wall. So come finished work, maybe. Man lying on a wall, 1957. If I had walked past and seen that, I would have definitely had a sneaky photograph of it on my mobile. My daughter would have gone, Dad, what are you doing? And I'd be like, shh, shh, shh. Yeah, another one of these sort of courtyard, life on the street scenes. Children playing there. A kid looking straight at us, all that sort of white. Is this lead white that he was using rather than titanium white? Had titanium white come out by then? Mixing white. Again, female character very much like his others. There we go, another one of his scenes. What we've got to say about this fellow here. Head of a boy. I mean, let's keep it simple with the titles, eh? Very impasto again, showing us that it is textured work. It's looking slightly down. There we go, another scene. There we go, another Manchester-esque scene. This one's more interesting with this central point here and people sort of vanishing into it. What is it? Why? The meeting point. See, that one's quite cleverly done, isn't it? And in some ways it's got a little bit more meaning injected into it because they're all going into this tiny space that they couldn't necessarily fit in. That's interesting. Castle on a hill. Do we know what castle? Let's see. Clifford's Tower, York. There we go. It's been a long while since I've been to York. Football match. Famous, this one, isn't it? Going to the match, question mark. All people going up into the stands there. Who is it? Is it Manchester United? Is it Manchester City? Is it Stockport? I don't know. All heading in one direction, pushing forwards off the same foot to create that lean. And then look how the people change direction in the centre towards the gates, using the people to create the movement, funneling in. It's very smartly done, actually. And I would say that out of all his pieces done at this sort of distance and perspective, this is probably one of the most successful. Maybe a kind of masterpiece in a way by this point in his career. Look at these white fences here and the red picking up again up there. A doldrum-esque scene. There we go. What's this one about? Let's have a look. Doctor's visit. Just a doctor visiting. I mean, has he totally imagined this? Was he sat in the corner on a chair while the mind Now this is unusual, more unusual, isn't it? This is Hetty. So I don't know much about who Hetty is. Was that the girl who he left his estate to? I don't know. Hetty. Very dark. Far more into the sort of European style of doing things Rembrandt-esque or something like that, you know, than his style at least. Here we go. Just so we don't forget who Lowry is. Hits you with that one on the next one. Halloween. 2 figures. We don't even know what it's about, do we? Halloween colours. What's this here? Very interesting. Perhaps one of his most interesting paintings in some ways. Some apples. We're back to the beginning. And we should have guessed that, shouldn't we? Because everybody starts painting still lives. Don't know. Maybe I did when I was younger. Probably have. Not sure I've painted an apple though. Anyway, there it was, L.S. Lowry. What do we think to L.S. Lowry? I like his impasto use of paint, the whites, and the sort of subtle way he makes the backgrounds and the negative space work. I like his use of perspective, 2 point and 1 point pushing through. I like his female figures with the red lips and the brown hair and the reoccurring theme of it. It makes me wonder about who he loved in his mind because he never really had a relationship. I do like his colour palette, but I feel like the relentlessness of it, painting after painting, gets difficult for me to stomach. And people did say, some of his friends said that he may have been autistic. Now, at that time, that probably wouldn't have been recognised because these days we have a better understanding of what that means. But he may have had certain personality traits that led him to have very repetitive and rigid behaviour. And maybe we're seeing that in his painting. But then at the end, he did just stop and said he'd done everything he wanted to do. He didn't decide to just go, oh, I'll try painting like Gustav Klimt or, you know, something totally different. He had a job and he did it. And he contributed to the history of art and he contributed to our culture in his own very unique way. And it's unforgettable, isn't it? And it is brilliant. Could I look at it every day? Maybe 1 or 2 of them. Could I look at them all every day? I don't know. It's there to think about, but we're not there to please the eye all the time, are we? And to make ourselves happy and cheerful. We're there to document something and let something out from ourselves as well. Anyway, I think next I'm going to do Cézanne, because he kind of led to sort of the beginning of Cubism and abstraction. And I want to talk a little bit about where abstraction came from, I guess, and the fact that did it all come from Picasso? It didn't really, I'm sure. I mean, maybe Barbara Hepworth had more to say about it than we realise, and just because she's a lady from England who grew up in Bradford and moved down to St Ives, maybe she wasn't grabbing the headlines as much as Picasso and Braque, but they definitely had a lot to do with it, and so did Cézanne. So I think that's where we're going next. Dead Art Studios, Wikiart Deep Dive. Check out my other videos, a bit more light-hearted, a bit easier to watch maybe. These are probably more for when you're feeling super studious. See you later.